What's up, everyone?
Hello, everybody. We're just trying to get through some technical stuff really quick here. One second. Hey, Kristen. So this is the first time that I've used StreamYard, everybody. So it might take me a moment here to make sure that I have it all set up properly. Kristen, can you see me?
I can see you. I can hear you. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
For some reason, I can't see you anymore. But you know what? I am trying to figure out what's going on. I'll get it in a second here. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I have the amazing Kristen Gutierrez here with me, and she's being very patient with me as I get through this. Okay, no matter. Guess what? If I can't see you anymore, I know that you're still there, and we're just gonna get talking. So hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have Kristen Gutierrez with me, and she's here to tell us a little bit about what she does. She is somebody who I met recently through a group that both of us are a part of. And it turns out that we both have ties to Northern Indiana. She went to college there, and I actually grew up there. So that got us to talking a little bit more. And I love her energy and her enthusiasm for what she does. And I thought that she'd be a great guest to have here as my very first expert guest in the group. And thank you so much, Kristen, for joining us today. What Kristen does is she helps people to get out from under their overwhelm and live a life with purpose and joy. And she's done this in several different ways, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But she's known as the Get It Done Girl. She's known by some other names as well, which I will let her tell you. She's authored a couple of books. She's a speaker on stage, and she's just had a lot of experience. Work experience and things that she's done that I thought would be really interesting for all of you to hear. So, Kristen, welcome.
Thank you. I hate that you can't see me. I can see you.
I'm going to figure this out. Don't worry. I'm going to figure this out. But anyway, so I just wondered if maybe we could start out with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your background and what it is that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so funny. Like, is it okay if we use this time together to say that, like, we're allowed to change the path of where we are today from where we were yesterday? Because if we're not growing, if we're not changing, then nothing changes. And I'm so grateful that I lean in, which is why I am also known as the LFG girl, the girl who just gets things done. And as a result, I'm writing the second book on Say Yes and Figure It Out, the perfect framework for taking massive imperfect action. Because I have a lot of mentors, and one of my mentors said to me, you've got to put this thing in a system, and you've got to learn how to teach others how you take so much action when you don't have all the answers. And as a result, the last 12 months has been the most fulfilling of my entire life, because I don't know anyone else here who's like chased shiny objects. So like what I mean is I spent just shy of 20 years in corporate America, climbing the corporate ladder and always having something else in the background, like not my purpose work, not like work that was actually going to be meaningful. That I started about 3 years ago. But prior to that, I was a Beachbody coach. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just that I thought, oh, my attention was divided. But not only that, I was a real estate agent. And I was like, okay, like this is the thing that's going to ride me off into the sunset. When I had my second kid, and he's only 3.5, so not that long ago, is when I really realized, wait a second, I read a book called The One Thing. And in that book, it talks about like single sourcing, single focus, single tasking is the new multitasking. And if you focus on one thing, you can actually excel at doing that one thing really, really well. And that is where I decided to go all in on my job. And it worked. I got promoted when I was 9 months pregnant. I got promoted when I came back from maternity leave. And then it worked until it didn't. And that's part of my story. But the reality is singularly focusing on one thing and like kicking to the curb the temptation to try to do something else while at the same time innovating who I am and iterating and trying this and trying that, all with like the same path. That's, I think, what's helped lead me to so much success the past 12 months. And now I coach others on how to do the same.
Yeah. That's so exciting. I totally am with you there on the shiny object syndrome. I like to say that I was a crow in my last life because like anything shiny, I'm like on it, you know, any little piece of tinfoil or whatever's out there. But I completely get that. I feel like sometimes we get excited about a project or something we're working on, and that leads us to something else. And so it's hard to discern whether it's shiny object syndrome or it's just us kind of like finding our path, you know? Like sometimes I think that it's also so many different options, even along the same path that we want to, and I think that's what you mean by the iteration, is basically like you come up with one focus, but then there's so many different aspects of that you're iterating to find the one that you want to move forward with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of things, really. And you can read the message. Anyone listening can hear the message however suits them best. But I do know that a few facts that when I was in the busiest season of my life, like, hello, over 40, 2 kids under 3 at the time, like full-time working mom, okay, and all the craziness, that by singularly focusing on my job, my sales job, I became a director of sales. I became a VP of sales. I wrote Be a Better Sales Leader. And when I got let go from that job, April 17th, 2023, I didn't freak out. I leaned in to my sales expertise and I used a system I had been taught, which was 1-1-1. So I focused singularly one message, my sales message, to one audience, the industry I was just let go from, using one vehicle. I created masterclasses as a funnel to consulting businesses. And that's a whole fully functioning like strategy in and of itself. But then as it goes, you landing clients, you're trying to best fit what you're selling to meet their needs. And so you, as I was collecting cash and generating lots of revenue for myself last year, it was iterating what I was offering. And so I had come to a point at the end of 2023 where I had 2 solid offers, a consulting offer and a community offer, like a 5K pay to play type thing. And that's where I ultimately became stuck because I was shoving around peg in a square hole, trying to continue. It was like one thing is like, you're either going to buy this or you're going to buy that. And I can change how it looks for you. But like, that was all I offered. And I had all this advice coming at me and I just didn't know what to do. And I can keep telling the story, but the point is for this is like, that is what allowed, like, we have to iterate and innovate as we are. It wasn't that I then was like, well, let me go try to be something totally different, or let me try to go do something totally different. But it opened the doors to keynote. It opened the doors for me to write the second book. It opened these doors that all align with me. And now it's opened the door for me to be able to train the trainer, coach other coaches, teach other entrepreneurs how to do the same.
Right. So what led you, when you had a job, like you'd been working in different positions, right, for years, and then what led you at that point last year to decide that you wanted to go out on your own?
Oh, I was fired.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but instead of looking for another job, why did you decide like this was your time to start something on your own?
I don't know who is watching this or who needs to hear this, but like for me, there's 2 things that are interesting. I never wanted to write a book. I didn't. So like some people are like, oh man, I wanted to write a book for years and years and years. I didn't. I decided, I woke up one day at the end of February 2023 and said, I should write a book to continue climbing the corporate ladder. And then I learned a framework for writing a book in 3 months. So you don't have to have, the thing about why did I go out on my own is because I always had on my heart of starting my own business. I come from a line of entrepreneurs. My grandfather is like probably the biggest entrepreneur He started like a ball bearing manufacturing company in Indianapolis, and like huge companies wanted to buy him in their heyday. And so that I just didn't know how. And I was always scared. And so on the one hand, I made a very successful run at a book, and I'm about to do a second one. And it's a tool. For me, a book is a tool. But on the other hand, I always wanted to do this, and I had no money. I had no savings. Like I didn't have a safety net. And now I had a California-sized mortgage, 2 small children. At that time, I had a husband and a house in Indiana, right? So now all of a sudden, at the time in my life when like my risk is at its highest, I let go from my job, and I said, it's now or never. I didn't even look back.
Yep. So tell me what you, as an entrepreneur now, you've been an entrepreneur for a little bit over a year. What is success to you now? Like what was success to you before working in corporate, and how do you look at success now?
Oh yeah. So success now is so different, because then it was, in fact, my second book was going to be about climbing the corporate ladder, more or less. And I'm so glad it's not that now. I'm so glad it's say yes and figure it out, because success was flying first class for business. And there's nothing wrong with that. And my sister and I would always like, first world problems. She's an attorney who travels. We'd be like, oh man, I'm in the first row of the first class, so there's no room for my bag. Like wave at us if you know what I'm talking about. Like that is reality of a traveling, working person. Like that's reality. You're going to get put in first class, and you're going to complain about things like that. That was success to me. It was like superficial and like artificial, and that's okay. Success to me now, have you ever heard of like, oh man, like fall in love with what you do and you'll never feel like you work another day in your life? Or true feeling of success is the fulfillment that you get by serving others. Even last year, people would say, wow, you look so happy. And I really, really, really was. Now I'm so happy and I'm so fulfilled, because my whole mission for 2024 is to 10x my impact, the amount of people I'm serving, and to 10x my influence, the amount of people whose circles I'm being introduced to, like yours, thank you. And then to 10x my income, because is it okay if we impact more people, we can also make more money? And I just have such a servant heart now. And that is forever what success will look like for me moving forward.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I think, and I never gave it as much credit as I needed to probably a couple of years ago, but mindset I find is so important now. And I think that the more that we can get into the right space in our heads of what we want, honestly, I think like anything is achievable, honestly. We just have to believe it ourselves that we're capable of it and that we deserve it. So I think that that's amazing. So what do you think as far as for entrepreneurs, what do you think the 3 characteristics that you think are really important for entrepreneurs to have to be able to be successful?
I'm like, oh my gosh, can I come up with 3? But so many entrepreneurs that that I know, I think the number one thing is they're coachable, right? Like I've checked my ego at the door. I love meeting people who are one step ahead. Someone in the chat say 1 step ahead, 1 step, because I actually find it better when I get to interact with coaches I hire who are 1 step ahead, because I can actually learn from them directly. And then I can see the 30,000-foot view of the various chess moves they're making to exponentially grow their business. And that is because I am first and foremost coachable. The second attribute I would say is an action taker. And I know it's like, oh, but Kristen, you take action. But like, it wasn't always this way. I like to sadly say I wasted so much of my life not knowing how much time I had. Wave at me if you have kids and you didn't know how good you had it before you had kids. So much time on our hands. and I didn't use it wisely. And so this whole like LFG Kristen is really a result of like Jack was born in November of 2020, like middle of the pandemic nonetheless. And so I would say this like innate, intense desire to take action in the 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, when I'm not getting a phone call from preschool or school that my kid is being sent home sick, right? I'm like, knock on wood about that. Yeah. Like, so I've learned how to channel this taking action. I think taking action is a big attribute. And then I think the third attribute would be resourcefulness. Broke people say, and like broke mindset. I love that you talked about mindset. People with a broke mindset, like, is it okay if I'm a little real with all of us? Like people with a broke mindset think things happened to me. But I took this horrible situation that happened to me and I turned it into what happened for me. And not only that, but I became massively resourceful. And so when presented with a coaching program that costs $100,000, you don't say, you know, entrepreneurs who say, I could never afford that versus entrepreneurs who say, how do I make that happen? Wealthy people find a way. Broke people find an excuse. And so coachability, taking action, and resourcefulness. That was that's good.
That was really good. That's really good. So, you know, also with the resourcefulness comment that you made, I think that mentors for me is something that came up also fairly recently. You know, you can spend so much time kind of learning everything on your own, and you can if you read all the books and do all the research on the internet. But have you used mentors, and how has that helped you?
Yes. Ironically, my mentors know this. So the day I lost my job, April 17th of 2023, like part of me wanted to tattoo that somewhere on my body because it could be a day of extreme pain. And I chose to see the joy in it. I had just invested an insane amount of money we didn't have on their program. And and I very could have, like, I was already known to them in their community. I had already had they taught me how to write the book in 3 months. They taught me the 1-1-1 system. So they taught me so much of who I am. And I very easily could have said, hey, very humanly, this thing just happened to me. I need my money back. And I know them, and I've said this to them on their stages, and they would have given me their money back because they're good people, right? Is it okay if we partner with people who are just good people? And so I spent tons of money with them and I learned, and they're really good at what they do. But when I needed to evolve more, I started looking for other help. I did a bunch of things. I took another job. I was like so depressed. I was so depressed. Oh my gosh. And I took another job and I negotiated a very high salary with the ability to work on my own stuff at the same time. And we just mutually agreed that, well, I was like, hey, listen, I want to leave and like go off and do my own thing again. After 4 months, like this is it, 4 or 5, I was going to say 5, but I think it was 4 short months where I was working with them. And I loved the team. I was doing a great job. I just felt called to do this other thing. And yeah, it was so scary again. Like once again, now I'm in this very scary situation. And the day I left that job was the day I was sitting through a challenge with my now second mentor. And listen, let me just tell everybody, I've bought a lot of courses in the past. When I was a real estate person, like I bought a $20,000 program. My then husband was like, what are you doing? Don't worry. I've bought into so many courses over the course of time. So it's not like these are the first 2, but that's what made it scarier because I've had non-success with so many other things. But I walked away from my job, and at the very same time, I put another massive amount of money I didn't have. And I was walking across the street where I lived to pick up my kid from preschool. And I was like, how am I going to make this purchase happen? How? It wasn't can I? It was how, because I knew it was too good to walk away from with the urgency that I needed. And I put it on my credit card. I put that one on my credit card.
Wow.
And I haven't looked back. I mean, that's why people see me taking so much action, because I feel so called to deliver on the promises I've made to myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how would you recommend for someone who's an entrepreneur right now, maybe who hasn't had a mentor in the past, like what should they be thinking about when looking to, pay for something and put down a lot of money actually to help them move forward?
I don't know if people actually teach this, but I'm going to tell you the secret magic. Find a mentor or a coach who has a system, and we're just going to call a framework or a system the same thing. Okay. Yep. Or an offer. They're going to make you an offer. Make sure that offer is based on a system. A system is a series of 3 to 5 steps that are going to help you accomplish whatever it is. It's going to help you move from a place of pain, overwhelm, being stuck, into a place of like fulfillment or success, whatever that system is designed to do. The irony is, one of my former CEOs would talk about 3 to 5. We were private equity owned. He reported up to a board. He would often tell me like what he was planning and how he was planning it to coach and mentor me. And he taught me 3 to 5. That year, I created a framework at my corporate job to move a needle within a client. And I then submitted that framework to the Stevie Award organization, and it won a Stevie Award. And it was, kid you not, 5 steps of innovation, driving innovation within a client account. And it won an award within like the complex sales of Stevie. Mm-hmm. And but you have to sometimes you have to like get hit over the head a few times. Your mentor and coach should be able to take everything that they've done, all the money they've spent, all the pain they've endured, all the stops and lessons, and be able to condense it for you. So not only are you buying a system from them, but you're buying a condensed time frame. And that's when you know that coach or mentor is really right. I think the thing I love, and this is like an individual basis, I love when I have access to the mentor, not to their team. Yeah. Right. I like a mentor who hasn't scaled to the top of Everest and is just living a good life. I like a mentor who's touchable, like I can like reach out to, like they're interacting with me in a group or wherever, they know my name. Right. I love that. And I feel more empowered and called to work when I have that support from the community. And so those are like the 2 things. Make sure they have a system, and make sure that they're compressing a timeline for you. What took them 2 years is going to take you now 3 months, or what took them a year could take you 3 weeks, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And then a system, compressing time frame. And for me, what I like is a mentor who is accessible. So with my clients, I'm like, you can WhatsApp me. That's me interacting with you on Facebook. Like I am me. Yeah. You can send me voice memos. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that brings us to kind of what you do. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're offering now? What is your offer? Do you have a single offer? Who do you think you can help?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. How long do we have?
As long as you want, Kristen.
I help entrepreneurs, coaches, course creators, and there's like a pivot. Like I help people who are super well established. I help 2 types of people that are entrepreneurs, coaches, and course creators. Either you're stuck making phone calls. That was me. Like your calendar. I literally took a screenshot of my calendar from October 2023. I was busy. I had back-to-back calls every single day of the week with no time to myself, purely to sell my consulting or my community. So entrepreneurs like that, or like that who have a team and they're just like, they can't scale fast enough. Maybe they've got setters and closers and they can't scale fast enough. I help them. Mm-hmm. But I also have a soft spot for helping entrepreneurs who haven't yet quite figured out. They have it on their heart, what they want to offer, how they could offer it, but maybe they don't have a website. Maybe they don't have a thing yet, a community. Maybe they don't have a 5K pay to play community. I still help them. And I love that, because that was the me who needed help too. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In that realm of who I help, what I do is I have a system. I have a 4-step system to helping these people take all their awesomeness, so their community and their offers and their systems, and like first we unpackage them and we look what's behind the hood, or in the Wizard of Oz we look behind what's behind the curtain, and we say like, what is actually part of your offer? Okay, if you're selling a 5K community, are you doing one-to-ones with them? Are you doing group coaching calls with them? Are there courses in there? What's actually part of that offer? And then we look at things that make the offers more valuable. Somebody say valuable in the chat. So like people pay for experiences, people pay for proximity. And so there's tons of ways to add in valuable layers that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg or be stressful to fulfill. So we take what they already have, we look at it, and then we add in more layers of value. And as a result, they're convicted to charge more. So I help them create irresistible, high ticket offers, 5K, 25K, 100K, 200K offers. And then I help them sell them in a one-to-many virtual event. Because if anyone is like me, who is a solopreneur, I had no team. I was a solopreneur. I still have no team. So I'm a solopreneur and I'm making phone calls left, right, and center. And I'm in sales, right? So like, even for me, that's like a massive leg up. It's a differentiator and it's exhausting. Mm-hmm. If you're me, this system of selling one to many means you simply learn how to tell better stories, how to engage with them in the chat, how to bring in other guest speakers, and then we sell it in a one-to-many format. And the back end of it might be a few phone calls, but those people are serious, not just curious. Mm-hmm. And often they're resulting in sales, because then the strategy is how do you best fit what you're offering to meet their needs. And so it's basically, it's a 4-step system. We call it decide, fill, host, and post. So those are the 4 steps.
Okay. Very cool. So, you've had some offers in the past. You have this offer now. I know you have something coming up. You have a delivery event coming up. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's more about, I have an event coming up June 12th that is a virtual masterclass. And at the virtual masterclass, it's 4 hours, believe it or not. But we show the entire strategy of the system. So the masterclass is right for entrepreneurs, coaches, course creators, people that have a business or are like, it's like right there for them. We give them all of the strategy to how we call it running the play, running the masterclass play, like how to make sure your offer is irresistible. We give worksheets, we give workbooks, we give strategy in the meeting, how to fill your event, even if you don't have an audience of your own. It's like super ninja, how to spend $0, borrow other people's audiences, and then how to choreograph the masterclass itself, and then how to do things after the event, like a fulfillment event. Like, it depends. Sometimes I sell one VIP days, like a VIP day. That's a one-to-one experience. Sometimes I sell a workshop. Those workshops are sometimes virtual. Sometimes they're in person. It really depends. But that's the beauty. Offer creation is wealth creation. And when I learned that, I had permission to iterate and innovate, not just what my offer is today versus what it is tomorrow, but how I'm serving somebody in the moment. Like how I serve you might be a little bit different than how I serve somebody else that I sold yesterday. And that's because your needs might be slightly different. And like, is that okay if like everyone gets an offer that's best fit for them? It's kind of, it's like, what? Stop. It's like, note to self, stop shoving a round peg in a square hole. Because I'll tell you, when I teach the system and then you go out and execute it, you're like, what? It worked. I ran the play and it worked. And then I got on a call with Susie Q and she said no.
Yeah.
That happens. And then we say, okay, cool. What did Susie Q say? What did you say? How did it go?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you still there? You've been freezing.
I am here. I'm here. We just had a little bit of a glitch, but I'm here. Yeah.
But,
I mean, yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think that customizing it definitely, makes a big difference for people, because a lot of times these programs are not customized. And I think this is also really exciting for entrepreneurs coming out with a product and they just don't know what to do with it. I mean, this sounds like it's just plug and play. Like, you just put this in, you help them figure it out. You help them figure out the messaging and how to package it all up and how to talk about it so that it'll sell.
yeah.
That's amazing.
It's so simple. When you see the 30,000 foot view, you say, it can't be that simple, because the beauty is then I teach the system, but you learn it. Like I'm working with resourceful, coachable, action-taking people, whether you have it figured out or not. And you're open to hearing how somebody else did it. You're open to learning why Elon Musk built a Roadster and then built down to the Model 3. And it's such a good story, because I have a Model 3 and I didn't even know I wanted a Tesla. It just became so accessible. We already had the electric here. It was so easy. And I bought my car through an app without ever going to a store, without ever test driving it, which is probably a little crazy. But they made it so easy and affordable. Like the cost of a Toyota Camry is how I got my Tesla Model 3. And that same concept we teach is like, build a high ticket offer, sell it one to many, and then run the play over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Right. Right. I love it. That's amazing. I love that. So, I mean, this was great. I wanted to just let everybody know that, again, Kristen is having an event, masterclass on June 12th. And if you're interested, it's a free event. And just write interested in the comments, and then I'll send you all the information, like how to sign up for that. But I think there's going to be so much great information for people. And I think that even if they don't move on with you, they're going to get so much there of value that they're going to learn, and they can put it right into their business. So thank you so much. And so I wanted to ask you, because this is a question that I'm asking all of my guests, is basically, what's your why? Why do you do this? Because I know we all need a why, right? So that something that keeps us going.
Yeah, I really, it's like, well, my kids are my why. I got trained by Dean Graziosi way back in the day, before he became who he is now, speaking on stage with Tony Robbins. I used to speak on Dean's stages in Scottsdale, Arizona, with like real estate investing stuff. But he had an exercise he did every time we met, which is the 7 levels deep, the why that makes you cry. And way back then, I didn't even have a husband, let alone kids, right? And so it's not, for me, it's easy to say it's my kids, because I told so much of my story that's like, that second kid threw me over the edge mentally, physically, emotionally. Like, I was like, I've been lied to this whole time. I'm 40. I went to school. I worked hard. I got a job. I climbed the corporate ladder, but like, I still feel stuck. And even though they had to let me go for me to finally fly, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I chasing all these various things that aren't bringing me fulfillment, instead of just going like tunnel vision forward with like one thing? And then when you actually get good at one thing, climbing the ladder as a corporate salesperson, now you can start to do other things. But so often we think we start, stop, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, my why is my kids, but it's also those visions you had as a kid. Driving around with my dad, we would talk about the house I would have, and we would talk about how he could live there, and we would talk about all these things, and like those memories that we forget about when we're grown adults and life has happened, and we go through all these things. I think there's so much about us when we're kids that if we could tap back into that imaginative space, we could soar as human beings. And so that's like, the fulfillment I have by helping other entrepreneurs. It's driven by my kids.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I also feel like that's interesting that you were talking about your dad, because it made me think that, we have our own dreams, but we're also fulfilling the dreams of possibly other people, right? And our parents, to see us achieve uh, a certain level of professionalism or whatever you want to call that. So I think that that's really cool. I think another thing is also that it's never too late, right? You have all these years of experience, and you've finally connected all those dots, and it's brought you to where you are now.
Yeah.
So I feel like if people are sitting and wondering like, oh, I'm in my 40s or 50s and it's too late for me, and I don't have time now. I can't start a business. I can't possibly do that. It's not too late. There are so many people I know that are starting businesses at this point in their life. So I think that's really exciting.
It is.
But I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being my first expert guest. Again, if anyone's watching and is interested in Kristen's masterclass on June 12th, just write interested in the comments and I will send you a link where you can sign up. But thank you, Kristen.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Take care.
All right.
Yep.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.